Hey everybody, thanks for joining us again for another episode. Please be sure to follow us and support us on all of the social media. That's Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram. All of that starts by visiting ableshepherd.com.
Welcome to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. Jimmy is a veteran U.S. Navy SEAL, a former protective officer for the CIA Global Response Staff, founder and CEO of the Able Shepherd program, a husband and father of four, and a personal friend of mine. Now here's Jimmy.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Protector Culture Podcast with Jimmy Graham. I'm your host, Jimmy Graham. This episode is brought to you by Able Nation. That's able-nation.org. Able Nation is focused on protecting schools, churches, civic groups, primarily children. If you have those in your care and you think Able Nation can help with scholarships or medical supplies or emergency equipment, then please contact Neil at able-nation.org. Today, this is a big deal. Episode 86, we got the 86ers, 086, Able Shepherd 086, it's Able Shepherd 051. Behind the camera, BK, what's up?
How you doing, boys?
We're good, brother, we're good. Jason, this was yours. You claimed it. So I'm gonna let you just take over, man. I'm just gonna sit here.
I'll take it. It's going to be kind of a hodgepodge. So
we
it's
do
not, right? It is. And there's a bunch of perspective things that I want to go over, and we're going to start with the number 86. And then I want to talk through current events, and then it will be whatever it's going to be after that.
Love it.
But to me, what was significant and why I claimed 86 is as a coin number and as a podcast number, what does Jimmy Graham think about that in relation to business development, starting from scratch, all of that journey? And here you are. I'm number 86. You have certainly BK. If you could jump in there on to what you've been at this a long time too. So if you've got words for us, that would be fabulous. But I really want to know your thoughts, because now what's the current?
I want to check the roster. Every time somebody passes the test, and sometimes I'm not there for it. A lot of the other guys do the test now because we're very blessed to have so many instructors, so many people. So we're at 218 as we sit here. So I live and breathe this day. The day that we're recording this on the 31st, and we'll see when it airs for 86 lines out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 218. So, man, I don't even know where to start, brother.
And so some context is this weekend, there's a bunch of events going on.
Yeah.
Primary event being Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And at a Memorial Day event, you have a community where you have Able Shepherds, you have families of Able Shepherds, and then you have extended families of Able Shepherds. And so I have front row seats to all of it. And when I see events like that, where you have this large community gathering, that had a start, that had a seed. And I know I've started a few businesses, and I know that you think through the vision of what you want it to be and what you think it's going to be. And then down the road, sometimes there's just slices of what you thought it was going to be. And sometimes it's magnified and it's much more than you thought it was going to be. And so I'm number 86. This is podcast number 86. You have the context of this community that we just had an amazing time with. What does that stir in you? And share with us what goes on in Jimmy Graham.
Brother, there's so much going on right now. I would not have known to pray for this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I can't even pretend to just to front that I somehow planned this all out. I truly thought when we started this, and also we'll do another podcast on this because next month, actually tomorrow is June. Well, hey man, midnight. We're going to celebrate 10 years. So it'll be 10 years for Duty to Act. So this company is called Duty to Act LLC. We're doing business, obviously, as Able Shepherd, which is a trade name. When we did that pivot and what we were going to offer, I felt called to do that. And we saw a need for this. So we saw a need for, we knew this kind of thing was coming with, obviously recently we've had Texas. Man, nothing more evil than attacking children. We talked about that, and I'd like to get into that.
We'll
touch
get
on
to
that. Okay, good. But as a father, man, something changed in me, and that became priority number one. At the time, I was still working for the CIA whenever I started this deal. I launched this on paper before I deployed back to Benghazi, Tripoli and Benghazi, and saw this threat saying foreign or domestic, we are going to have, this trajectory even then was a bad one. Nowhere near, by the way, what it is right now. So to see what this has become, man, I truly am. Like I did a podcast the other day, and it was fantastic because I told you about it. It aired last night, or the guy wrote an article about the podcast, and it said something about like ex-Navy SEAL, shares his testimony or testifies that Jesus is the answer. Because I looked at him and said, what can we do? What can we do to prevent all this? What's the one thing we need? I said, Jesus.
Right.
And I'm proud that that came out of my mouth. I truly believe it with all my heart that there are some there's fundamentals. We say it, keep building higher and higher while simultaneously chipping away at the foundation. So that has been so proven to work throughout history. I think it was, was it C.S. Lewis maybe that said, or maybe G.K. Chesterton, I forget, that said Christianity has never been proven wrong. It's been proven difficult and then left untried. And it's such an amazing thing to see that I was just obedient for many, many years. And as you know, took a construction job, heavy equipment, some other jobs to make this go, and just kept tracking on that thing that I wanted to add value in this community, in this industry rather.
Yeah.
And the community, the camaraderie part of it, I wouldn't have guessed. I thought I was going to teach people how to more efficiently use firearms and be safe, and how to have an effective response to defend their kids. That's what I kind of thought it would be. And I thought that once you unveiled this for police and the security industry, there was going to be this tidal wave, and that didn't happen. And that I wouldn't change it for the world. Like I wouldn't change all the days of me loading up my little 4Runner and zipping all over, not this town, all over south side of Denver and beyond, and just trying to scratch my way into like training classes and all that stuff. But I never compromised that. I was like, this is what we're going to do. And it just took longer than I thought. And I'm thankful for that.
That's good.
And this weekend, brother, like, how do you recap this weekend? I don't know how. Like there's so many answers that want to come out right now. Like, I remember so this is one of them. We're in the woods and we're setting everything up, right? And Skip's got the pull-up stuff pretty much rigged, and we're getting the food and all that stuff. And Melissa's not there. She wasn't feeling good. Feel better than Melissa. And she usually keeps the wheels on the bus. She came out earlier and set everything up. So it's really just plug and play. So I'm just doing the plug and play that she had already set up. And I look over and I go, that. And I see this wave of people with kids coming through the woods. And I'm like, that's the deal. That's exactly what I would want. And somebody, I just, in the SEAL community, I just saw some post on one of the, I don't even know what it was, social media. And it was, one of the widows from that community that I know. And she was posting, something to the effect that came up there was laugh, like have fun. It's okay to say Happy Memorial Day. This isn't this somber thing. This is a celebration of life. And I truly believe that's what those guys would want. I can't speak for them. I just know I was in that seat. And had it been me, I would want you. I really appreciate a shout out because I'm not around anymore. I'm going to raise a family and then get to it and enjoy it, but know why you're enjoying it. So that's not missed on me. So I probably had the best time of any single individual there yesterday.
Beautiful. I like it. That spurred a thought. And the thought was, you have this community of able shepherds with a specific vision. And the community, you have over 200 coined members. You have a community that extends much beyond just the coined members.
Absolutely.
There's a pile of people working towards that coin. Do you get feedback from the SEAL community, from that part of your peer group, that there's a lens that gets shown on this community and what we're doing? What kind of do you get feedback? What kind of feedback is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And the only feedback truly that's come directly to me, I don't know who's talking about me or whatever, I don't really care, has been positive. Not only positive, but encouraging, keep going. I'll talk about just this week, right? Because nationally, we just got a voice this week because of what happened, and right now, and at the time of this recording, the nation is scared, and I've got other people that I share with. I send them information, they ask questions, and if they're trying to secure their school, and some of them have a very, very almost mirror image career path that I do. So their resume looks very much like mine. Life didn't take them into this industry,
Right.
but they're still men, right? And they still have skills within them, and they want to launch this. And I appreciate too when they come to my aid, they've still got my back these many years after this. That's a SEAL community. This is this community. Somebody will come out and be like, "Oh, what are you going to arm teachers? Are they going to be able to stop anybody?" I'm like, "Yeah." And somebody said recently, they said, "You're going to have to prove that one to me." And I don't really acknowledge usually that garbage, but I said, "I already have." Like, are you kidding me? Like, but by going down the line and acknowledging those people, you validate them because they were just a mad dude shaking his fist until you answered, and now they've got a dialogue with you, right? So most of the time I don't do it, but it is kind of nice to see people step up and kind of have your back, and just say like, "Hey, brother, I'm in this community, and these guys you saw it this week. I'm in this community. That's not, you missed the whole deal." Or somebody from across the country that has got a resume, twice, 3 times longer than mine, going, "Hey, brother," he said, "Hey, do you have a better idea?" To this guy. This guy has no idea who this name is, by the way, because the keyboard courage guy's like, "I get you." You have no idea who this man is, right?
Yeah.
And he's saying, "Strong work, Jimmy Graham, keep going." Like, hey, you send it. Because the people in their communities, when they say about it, when they start talking about this, they just send them more links.
Yeah.
And like, this is a model. If they see a better one, those guys don't. The guys I'm talking about don't support or back something because you're a SEAL.
Right.
They're like, "Who ain't?" You know what I mean? In that community, like, we're all SEALs, but this guy's actually doing something. So you might want to watch his video.
Yeah. I like it. And this is, all of these are building to this specific place,
Just crescendo.
in time. And what I get to thinking about is, I think about the standards that like, I know when I went and passed the Able Shepherd test, got coined, and then signed on to a standard of conduct. And I think about that standard of conduct, and I think about not just how do I conduct myself when I'm immediate in proximity, but when I'm living life. And I think about the standard of conduct in parallel with the standard of capability. And I think about the number 86. I think about the number 212. I think about the number 2000 and whatever, right? And then it goes from there. What are your thoughts on, when you started out, did you think it was possible to have this this standard of capability with the standard of character? Like, where it's at right now, the community is at right now, where the program's at right now, because the environments that you've been in historically, training wise, have had the highest standards of anywhere. And now you implement that in the private sector with a whole spectrum of individuals with different capabilities, whether it's physical or whatever. I am, like, from the first day that I engaged with this community to as recently as yesterday, seeing the community at work, I am so impressed with the standard of conduct and the standard of capability. What's your feeling on where it sits today compared to what you thought was possible?
We've so surpassed what I thought was possible. And I don't know, I just didn't know, you know what I mean? So I've only worked with people with a background in this. So I was like, I just don't know. So I'm just going to present this, meaning that there are people that are good folks and they just want to protect their children, right? And you're like, okay, we'll start with that because it's a good place to start. But I've never really had years to spend with people that I was training. And those people, specifically in the CIA, you've got 3.5 weeks with them to pour into them. Now, given usually they come from a background of special operations or the like, so you have 3.5 weeks to dump everything you can into them, and then it's pass or fail, and they either go deploy to defend this country and then defend diplomats, whatnot, or they don't. So it's just go, 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 go. You don't have what it takes. You don't get the job. See ya. Or be safe. So it's a very, very. I take this more seriously, I think, than anybody I know. And that I'm not saying that boasting. It's just, man, I've seen where guys don't come home, and I've seen bad training, and I feel like if something happened to anybody, that somehow I could have prevented it. I know it's not healthy to go too far down the road. This recent Texas shooting, I feel you knew that. There was just a different. The nation felt it, but it's almost like having a cure for cancer. Like, I have a solution,
Right.
and maybe I'm not presenting it right. Maybe I'm just not well-rounded enough to get this on the table, right? And that's my fault, and that might be hurting people. I know it's not my fault. I didn't hurt any kids or whatever, but that's the way I was as a protective officer as well. Some people might go drinking and they're doing whatever, and I'm like, I'm here in a different country, not to have fun. And I'll have some fun when there's time, but I can't be less than 100% for these people. I don't care if it's 2 a.m, right? It must be that way. So to come back and then to pour into people that don't, I just does good things inside Jimmy Graham. Whenever you see somebody that doesn't have a background in this, and now they're amazing. Like Parker beating, I razz him a little bit, but nothing to razz him about. He, when he beat my 3 of 3, he was like ecstatic, like, whatever. And not that and I love when people beat my scores, it just stings a little bit because I'm getting older, all this stuff, and I just want to be better and better, but I don't want to be the best at all of this. It's almost like, and I'm not calling Parker, but don't razz Parker and say I'm calling him my kid. Somebody said Christian one day is going to be stronger than you, better. And I said, well, if he's not, I haven't done my job, right? So I love the fact that I tell Christian things like, I'm going to use my powers, because we use powers because it's cool, and use my powers to protect you until you're strong enough to protect me. And man, he swells. So on a similar vein, these younger individuals that are entering the business or in the program, and as they're coming up, there must be that transition at some point. Man, I've seen guys overseas in this role, in this world, that were like their kid mouthed off. I remember this one guy in particular grabbed his kid by the throat, put him up against the wall, jacked his hand, and said, "You will never be strong. Do you understand me?" And I just looked at him and said, "That's unfortunate." And just walked out of the room, because he was saying it like boastful, like Dad still got it.
Right.
I'm like, you missed everything.
Right.
You missed all of it, and that was an unfortunate deal. But to see people that invested in themselves to a point where we spent some time together, and now they're way better for it. And I don't know that they're ever going to see any violent encounter the rest of their life, but the confidence is a real thing.
Right.
So it's not like you're not going to use what's it for. You missed the whole thing. If you can say that, because if you don't see that stuff here, there's a guy right there behind that camera that walked in and said, "I feel this. I don't know what it is. Kind of take out your trash," and I'm not kidding. Like, that thing led into this ride that has become, just amazing, an amazing culture, and I love it. So it's surpassed anything I could have hoped for, and I'm as grateful as anybody.
Yeah. It's it just is such a joy, and it's so energy charging to be part of it, to be involved in whatever. Yeah. To whatever capacity. It's like just get me close.
Yeah.
And it's in everything that happens.
Yeah.
And I will absolutely attest to the fact that everybody leaves here better. I mean, just everybody leaves here better, period.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
And everybody leaves here better every single time, including the staff. It's something we say, and I really appreciate hearing that feedback, because that's the goal. And something popped in my head, if you'll allow me this. Take pictures. Like, I don't know why, sometimes in the SEAL teams, and then like maybe law enforcement, I can't really speak to those, but there's just this cool guy thing going on. And if people are taking pictures, you're kind of like, this guy taking his pictures. Take pictures. You never know. Like, we've been there, man. There's guys that aren't around anymore. Mm-hmm. I've got a picture of Glenn Doherty in Benghazi, not Benghazi. It was outside of Tripoli, and we were on a protective detail. And he's just being like a goofball. Mm-hmm. And there's a picture in some of the ruins, and it's just this big god of fertility. It's just a huge penis, right? And he's like, and he's being an idiot. Yeah. That's gold now, because he's not around anymore. So stuff like that is just like, that moment is that moment. It will never be that moment again. And I don't know what this thing is in me that just went through almost not an entire career. I got some pictures, but very few. Yeah. And the ones that I captured, and those folks aren't around anymore. And you know, like we have people that are senior to us. The truth is, we're not going to be around forever, right? And if we capture those moments, then we get to enjoy them again. You know, and that's just the thing I had to learn. I don't know the psychology behind that. I just know that I think I've stepped over that, and I've got amazing people to take a bunch of pictures too. Just like yesterday, I don't know that I took a picture because I was, you know, on go the whole day and just drinking it in.
Right.
And I'm like, oh no! Thankfully, Jen that came in from Vail, Jen and Justin, what's up, guys? And Hayden, she took some pictures, and that's what I posted today.
Yeah. Perfect. When I think about what the program has grown to, and I think about this service to the community, and in an answer to your internal personal mission and vision, why do you wake up in the morning, and correlating that to things that we've talked about, one of which being, you know how when you talk about getting that call at 3 a.m. from somebody that needs you, and that the development of that resume started 3 years ago. That's why you got the call. And I think about, you keep bringing up Texas, and I think about, at this moment in time, there's an amplified voice, and you specifically have an amplified voice because of specific media outlets, and because you've saturated yourself in this day in and day out for years and years and years and years. Is there anything different about that, the content of what you're voicing to this global audience? And I guess what I mean by different is, the State of the Union is different today than it was 5 years ago. And when you connect with those amplifiers, is there anything that you feel or anything that you're trying to get across in the message in the last week or so from Texas that is that you think is distinct because of where our country's at today? Because I certainly know that those foundational blocks, those have never changed. Those have been the same. But is there nuance to that message? And is there a slice of that message that you feel hasn't been touched on, hasn't been communicated, that the world needs to hear?
That recent interview that I talked about, they said, what's the one thing? And immediately, Jesus. That popped into my head. I think I wear my faith on my sleeve, so I don't think anybody misses that.
Right.
But that is such a core piece of all of this. We've said it this way, you know, everybody wants to try, they're eager to try everything except what works. You know, so we're gonna outlaw, don't say this answer. Okay, so what's the fix here? Don't say that answer. I'm just saying, say other things. Well, those aren't going to work. That's okay. You can say those. Say them out loud. And I do understand it, actually, because I think this is a plan that's way bigger than what we're seeing, meaning good and evil. But that is the answer.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're not willing to say that out loud, then I'm not sure what the big surprise is. You know, so this has been proven. This has been documented. This has been, you know, like that light is stronger than dark. You know, love is stronger than hate. Like if you don't believe these things and you're not really willing to go to the source, there are consequences to removing them. And then once you start seeing them, you start blaming other things. I think knowing full well, most people, knowing full well that there is a pull away from that, but there's just this allure of there's something else that's going to fix this. I've said you can't purchase this, you can't elect this. Mm-hmm. This if this model is built from we the people, then it must be we the people. So that whole, I'll say it another way. this is how I prove it in my mind, because I'm always critical of myself and saying, like, am I just like them, but on the other side, like, am I just believing my own thing? If there were a million Jason Campbells, that's a world I want to live in, right? If we could mass produce, just cookie cutter them out, you could walk down the street, you could own property, you could defend your life. All this stuff is a possibility. And now it's milk and honey because you earned it, right? You'd have to work for it because he doesn't give handouts, right? It's just you would have to work for it. And I know that your heart, I know you would help people if they needed it, right? Let's just go to the lady with the baby dolls on the string, the crazy lady at the rally saying, "I killed the babies." It's like, I don't want to live in that world. I don't want to walk down that street. That's a dangerous place to live. There's no order. There's no rules. There's no helping anybody else because it's all about my agenda, and there's no conversation. I'm just going to scream in your face, right? So I don't want to live in that world. It's not sustainable. That world ends in ash. So that's the thing that I'm like, and I'm not asking anybody's permission. This is me talking. This is exactly what I'm going to do, and you're invited. That's the deal. I'm not gonna, like that sheep herder. I'm not gonna beat on you until you go through the gate. I'm gonna walk through the gate and say you're invited. That's served us well, and that is proof on all levels, whether it be my walk personally, my marriage, anything, this business. It's like, I'm just going to be the best guy I can possibly be, and you're invited to come along. But I'm going to have a blast doing it. And we're going to save people, and we're going to do all this other stuff. And people go, okay, I'll check it out. And then we do. And then you're driving around the country, side with BK and his son, and many others. And then you don't know what's going to happen next. So if all you do is goodness, that goodness becomes better when like a tragedy happens, something like that. We lose somebody, right? Which has happened. And then we have those memories because we invested in
them. The national ear for tragedies like what we just experienced, I've heard you reference that ear lasts about 2 weeks. We're getting close to the 2-week mark, just like that. And what do you think the nation needs to hear while the ear exists?
So we have
because and why I'm asking it like that is I know, like, when we're part of panel discussions, and we're going through questions that get asked, and we're plugging in our part to that. I think you're wired a lot like I am, where you try to be as respectful to the rest of the panel as you can. Make sure you're not like, I don't want to consume all of the airtime, because everybody that's there has valuable things to contribute to the discussion. And so sometimes you have all the time that you want to take to fully flesh out and develop. In this case, I would call them the solutions that we're referencing. There's about a week left of the nation's ear. What does that ear need to hear?
Obviously, that Christ-centered approach being, that the solution starts with individuals. Like, we must be better people in order to elect better representatives of said people to even put a dent in this. So it must work that way. I've talked about 3 categories, if you will, three areas, and one is that trained people. Everybody has a job, and during an emergency, everybody has a responsibility. They have a job. It doesn't mean with firearms. So some people, the teachers don't like that, saying, I don't want to be armed. I don't want to do this. I want to do that. I didn't say that. I said you have a responsibility. So if there's an emergency, you say, I just want to stare at the wall. That's not an option, right? You must do something. And we talk about those defend modules: defense, evacuate, fortify, emergency medical aid, notify others in your immediate area, and dial 911. So to say, I don't want to dial 911. I'm like, I'm not really asking you to have a job. Here, you must say you're going to do something, not nothing. But I want to do nothing. Then go do it on the street, right? I don't like it. That's just where we're at. Because there are human beings attached to this. And when I drop them off at the curb, the responsibility for those human beings go to you, right? And if you're not saying that, I'm not dropping them off here, right? I'm going to take them somewhere that cares about them. So that's what I'm going to do. But nobody expects you to be a Navy SEAL or a SWAT team commando, right? They just expect you to be an adult, a human being, and protect children. So that, I would say, the people. The second thing is going to be the buildings, and I can hear you smiling right now. SEPTED, son. So we went to the first SEPTED, crime prevention through environmental design. And they have some value, and you can speak to that too. They're alone, negative, not having it. They will not get my endorsement by having just crime prevention through environmental design. They actually take away target hardening and then call that safer. So I disagree. So if you're just doing SEPTED and it's all you have, I don't even want to see that certificate unless you understand target hardening. So where those two worlds collide, that means there must be physical. When some people don't care that the grass, if there's thorny bushes and the eyes on the street, some people don't care. If they're coming in there to kill people because they're off their rocker and they come into a building that day, you need target hardening, period. What's going to stop them from those children? Whether it be the structure of the building, whether it be individuals, whatever. That's what's actually physically going to work. So yes, we can try to deter. And on the days, and they even say that for rationally thinking people. I'm not talking about rationally thinking people because we're mass producing the opposite. So when those people show up, you need actual physical things that keep them from getting to our children. And then the third thing, the first one is training people in those specific roles that, a variety of 6 roles that they're going to have to do something. Not a question. The second thing is going to be the I'll just call it architectural and technological improvements, right? What did I say? The architectural and design. And technical design. Yeah. And then the third thing is going to be the culture. The culture, that whole buy-in of saying that this is a safety culture, this is the Protector Culture podcast, saying whose job is it? It's my job. Mm-hmm. So that thing that helps you not prop the door open. Like everybody's got to be serious about this. I don't know how many kids have to die until people get serious and say, we call it the perimeter. You keep the perimeter. And we can use technology, by the way. Technology exists to make a human response more effective. So if that door goes open, there's an alarm that should go off, right? If it stays open, it gets louder, and then we need to get that door closed, right? So you need to have permission to open that door for something else. Keeping a perimeter is everybody's job. So noting anything unsafe is everybody's job. And until we get that, I don't care what you buy, it's going to be worthless because nobody had buy-in and they breached it, and there was no accountability.
Yeah. You have a global audience. It's amplified. Because you have a global audience, there's the potential to have simultaneously 10 different communities, 100 different communities, whatever that number is, call you and say, we're ready, we want the thing. And it's the whole deal. Mm-hmm. Are you ready?
Am I ready personally?
Are you ready?
I'll say yes, and this is why. Because I've thought about this a lot. We've discussed it a bit. And in my mind, you have to draw a line somewhere, right? If they're like, are you saying that every able shepherd you're going to take with you to Iraq? I'm like, no, I'm not actually. But if I had to draw a line somewhere to make this standard, the standard is very, very good. It's better than anything I've ever seen on a civilian level, right? We can take the Pepsi Challenge anytime and display that thing. So I was thinking about this the other day. The Pepsi Challenge is like, one, I don't drink Pepsi. I'm a Coke guy. And 2, I don't drink Coke. I know.
That's exactly where
I want to clarify that. It's a term. But we can prove it is the point. I can show you. And when people know what they're talking about and we show them, they go, that's actually quite a thing. Show me how to do that. Yeah. But in order to scale this or expand it, as we've discussed, we've played with it in the past. And it's not going to go well because if it's Able Shepherd, it's got Jimmy Graham's name on it and Able Shepherd's name on it, I must be very protective of the standard. I'm annoyingly protective of the standard, right? Because I owe that to the community. But that's for that. A separate thing would be if we took our curriculum and licensed people to use that. Like here's the playbook. You guys can use this stuff. They will be better. Means even if they did 50% of what we offer, they'd be way better than they are right now. Mm-hmm. In that regard, yes. We are ready. And I had to really think long and hard about that because I'm going to be like, well, you're not doing the thing. It must be safe. That's not negotiable.
And that's why I started. That's why I did the build-up.
Yeah.
The standard of conduct, all of that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Because it boils down to, are you ready?
Yeah.
And you have a global audience. And I believe so.
Yeah.
I mean, I absolutely believe that that what you have put together is the solution for all of it. Obviously, starting with what the nation needs to hear, which is it's it's about Jesus. It has to be about Jesus first, and then you build the capability off of that Christ-centered approach. And that seems to be what everybody wants to ignore. Nobody wants to talk about the good and evil hierarchy of this. They want to skip to the man-centered things, and the man-centered things have never worked, ever.
It never, we say play it to the end. When we go to, say, a shooting scenario, active shooter scenario with communities. I'm just thinking of the one that we did, whatever, way north, east of here, and a local communities in a high school. And we had police come in, we had fire come, we had everybody come, and we did this scenario, and we got the wounded people outside of the curb. And I said, okay, play it to the end. They said, what do you mean? This is how we do it. And I was like, well, is this where you go? And I know for a fact it's not. And they go, no. And I go, where would you take this person to put them in a triage funnel so the ambulances can pick them up? I go, I don't know. I go, well, let's look it up. So they pull out the book, they look it up, and I go, 200 yards that way behind the concession stand for the athletic field. Mm-hmm. They looked at me like, what? So now they're taking a grown man. It's a kid, but he's a grown man, right? Adult kid. He's probably 19 years old. We take him and they drag him all the way over there. Now the legs are shaking, right? That's the real data, is saying, how many more of those trips do you have in you? They're done. Yeah. They're done for the day, right? Because they got one kid all the way over there. Okay, there's 18 more. Go get them. But that means we need to train differently. There needs to be a better plan. And we wouldn't have learned that until we took it to the end. So that train of thought, let's take it all the way to the end. You could be the best leader in the world. You could be the best gunshot in the world, the best whatever. You're just a heck of a guy, and you lead a ton of people straight to hell. That's the part I don't understand. Right. You've never played this to the end. Like, your family is horrible. Not you. And now you get there and you're like, and now they're like, you led us here. And I can't imagine the shame, at that point, for people that were just charismatic people that led everybody. And then there was you see good people going off this way, and you're like, wait a minute, what have you done to us? Mm-hmm. Right? Again, back to that protective officer thing is, did you even take this seriously at all? Because I don't think you ever even mentally went all the way to the end. Yeah.
Which is the answer to this question that's on the mind of this country. It's on the mind of the world. Why schools? Why children? Why?
Man, I could borrow an answer from my brother, Jason Campbell. And you were spot on when you said this the other night, is there, it's good and evil. It truly is. And I've thought about that. I was like, if you were just so, and possibly it's like Manchurian Candidate. Some people know. Some people, I think they think they're doing the right thing. Yes, it's unsustainable. Yes, they see light and dark and they choose dark, and maybe they don't know why, right? But they just keep on going and going and going. And then they become so consumed that they want to kill Jesus Christ. He's just not here. And the closest thing you can get to him is that baby, right? Mm-hmm. And the most vulnerable is not even out here. It's in a womb because it's in a dark place. You can't see in there. Yeah. So let's kill the image of Christ, the closest thing we can come to. And if you can't get that, then get the ones that are a little bit bigger, that can't run so fast. Look at Sandy Hook. They can't run on their own. They don't know what to do. They're scared and they drop to their knees because they're kids and they must be protected. That infuriates me on a level, and I get it. If your name's Mrs. McGillicuddy, I apologize. I always use Mrs. McGillicuddy. I just picked that out. I don't even know why. But if you're the sweet little old teacher, and that's okay, you can protect them and keep them quiet or whatever. Like, I understand that. I'm just saying the job changed. It's like, I'm not. It's not what I signed on for. None of us signed on for this. Right. This is freaking out of control. This is it's unbelievable what's happening right now. None of us signed on for this, yet here we are. Mm-hmm. So there needs to be changes right now. And if you're not on board with that, that's cool. You can go find another job. That's exactly how I feel about it. To say that you won't protect kids, one, that disgusts me that you're a human being in charge of kids. And two, I'm not having it. If you're not going to protect my children, I will not hand them over to you.
Mm-hmm. Given the need for change, it's an obvious need for change. What do we do? What can we do as individuals? And I'm talking about individuals at large, not part of the Able Shepherd community directly. Like, we're just somebody that's in the audience that is over it, just tired of seeing the headlines in the news, tired of listening to politicians rather than seeing solutions implemented. It's just a bunch of back and forth that ends up getting relegated to talking points that eventually fade from the conversation. What do we do right now? How do we help? How do we help move the needle in the direction of implemented solutions?
Great question. The world needs leaders right now, more than ever before. There's so many out there that don't know they are. So if there are leaders, and if you spend time in prayer and really ask where your spiritual gifts meet your calling, that's what we need. There's a quote out there. Give me a second. It says something to the effect of, "Don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive." Because what the world needs is more men that have come alive, right? People. I can just say men. So when you've come alive, you're dangerous. When you come alive as a community, you're really dangerous. And we use dangerous in a good way here, right? So if you really spend time, if you're like, I don't know, well, you freaking figure it out. Like, there's no time to, I don't know, like whatever. It just doesn't even, that's not even an actionable game plan. So spending it to figure that out. While you're doing it, though, there are leaders out there. We've played about with this, for the Western Conservative Summit, Lila Rose, David Barton, Jack Hibbs, RMGO around here, fighting for our gun rights. There are so many leaders out right now, and if you're saying nobody's doing anything, then your freaking head is in the sand, right? There's many people doing things, and I tell people the least you can do is financially. Like right here in this little pocket of heaven that we live in, don't tell me you can't afford it. If you're not doing anything, you should be cutting a check monthly to these other people that are doing this, that are out there on the front lines while you're praying, if you're a leader or not. Perhaps you are a supporter of a leader, but we need that leader. Like, we need Jack Hibbs. So I don't even know. We would give money. I don't even know. Rachel signs it over, whatever. Get that figured out. Get that thing figured out. Because, man, I believe in him, right? Same thing with our church. The same thing with these other organizations. And as I'm praying through it, I'm financially supporting these people because I'm called to, right? Through my tithing offering, right? This isn't just me. This isn't bragging. I'm saying this is your duty. You must do this. Yeah. So to be able to support other leaders while you're becoming a leader. And if you're not going to lead it, if you're not a leader, that's okay. Because some people are in a support role, but there's a leader there. Like, if you're not a leader or supporting a leader, I don't know that you have a complaint. Like, I don't know that I hear if you're shaking your fist at the TV, you register on nobody's scale. Yeah. Right? And it doesn't mean if you're in a financial spot where you can't do it, again, we joke about those verbal support. People just come on. You got time to spit all that venom on social media, but you can't encourage somebody. That means a lot to me when somebody comes, they got my back and they're like, "Hey, brother, keep going. This guy's a knucklehead, whatever." I'm like, "Roger that," and we just keep on going. So that's free. You can do any of that stuff. So I think supporting leaders is just a big thing. And then truly knowing what you stand for. We've talked about this before. I've said this many times at many venues, is that you must figure out, what do I stand for? What's my hill to take? And do I care enough to do anything? Like, what do I stand for? And I sum it up really quickly, just as a quick stab. It's much deeper than this, but pro-Jesus, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment. Pro-Jesus, not pro-God. That can be Buddha, whatever. It means pro-Jesus Christ. Pro-life means don't murder babies because they are in the image of God. They're worth defending. It's our duty to defend them. And not pro-gun. Pro-guns, like somehow I love guns. Like, guns are cool. Guns don't make you cool. Sorry. It just means that's the deal, right? Pro-Second Amendment means I have a right, an inalienable right given by God to defend my life and my property and my family, right? So those things, if you figure out what you stand for, and then you figure out at some point that there's an old covenant, a new covenant, Old Testament, New Testament, that you're in it, and this is an action adventure, and you've got a part in it, you're just sitting it out, that's not okay anymore, right? So that was what changed my life, and that's what people need to come to some realization that there's a responsibility that's yours.
Absolutely. I like it.
Yeah, fired up, son.
I like it. Drop a quarter in it. I love it.
Good way.
I think those were the biggies that I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
This is episode 86. Do you have any unanswered questions of the 86er himself?
I do, because as you've been talking, I've been thinking about this as you'd be the perfect person. And this is a gauge for me too, because the support with those conversations, we've had 50 of them since you've been here, because that's all we're doing. is just hanging out and enjoying company. And you come down from Montana.
Mhm.
We just had a couple come down from Vail. Actually, several people come down from Vail this weekend to do two different deals because they got a glimpse of something that they didn't have. They got a glimpse of, I've been looking all over for this. And this isn't like Jason doesn't know how to shoot and he found a shooting school, right? Because any shooting school, it's the best one you've ever had, but when it's the only one.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best thing ever. It's like, what's happening on here? You're like, you can't hit the target. I go, no, it's awesome. Because I never shot a gun. It's great, right? Grandpa gave it to me, and now it works. That's cool, but it just doesn't mean, so when somebody comes in that's had your background and somebody that is I'll just call you an accomplished human being. I just know you and Les, and I know that you're fantastic people. You're well-read. You spent 2.5 weeks in Israel over that. Just such goodness, right? Just you're on that journey to be a better person for this world, right? Yeah. And then you get the benefit of enjoying that, right? And you drive down here and spend weeks with us. So that is encouraging, like we just talked about. It's very it's a validation saying people come from far and wide because they found something they couldn't find. And you've looked. Yeah. Anything on that?
Yes, I've got hours.
Just meaning that why here?
Well,
I mean, you kind of said, something about that.
Yeah, why here? Just a Cliff Notes version of that. I come from a family of law enforcement, so been around guns and law enforcement as protector culture my whole life, and engaged in different aspects of increasing capability. But what never answered the question was, what do I do when it's 3 a.m. and I'm in my chonies and somebody blows through my front door? What do I do? Because it's pitch black. I can't engage that threat from laying in bed, which means I have to move. And so what's the right way to move? How do I'm guessing, like I know my house better than anybody. I can guess where I'm going to go, but that's guessing. I can guess the kinds of things that I should be communicating with my wife while that event is taking place, but I don't want to guess. I want to know. And this is the only place that I have found where I can come here with my wife and we can engage in a controlled environment, the exact setting of how I answer the question, somebody blows through my door at 3 a.m., what do I do? I know exactly what I'm doing now. And my wife knows what we're doing now. And that wasn't the answer 4 years ago. And so why do I, and there's to come down here for minimum of a week, sometimes 2 weeks, that's a major investment of time. It's a major investment of money. And like it's the most expensive diesel fuel this country has ever seen. And I'm choosing to drive thousands of miles. Yeah. Right? Why do I do that? Why would a person do that? And it's, I don't know at this point, because of how I get fed internally when we get to engage in all of the spectrum of things that you and I talk about, whether it's specific gear, or it's Jesus, or it's anything in between that feeds my soul. It feeds my capability scale, and that every time I come here, I get better, and I get better as a Christian. I get better as a human being. I get better as a husband, and I also happen to get better with guns. And all of those things are central to why I wake up in the morning. And so it makes it, there's a price, it's like my wife didn't get to come with me on this trip. And so to spend 2 weeks apart sucks. Yeah. but it's a shared value system. And this also happens to be the season where I'm launching a church security team, brand new team for Anchor Church in Missoula, Montana. And so that carries with it its own burden of making sure we do it right out of the gates, because there's a whole community of folks there who are counting on us doing the right thing, not doing all the other things that have proven not to work. They're counting on us to do the right thing. And so to me, the investment of my time and financially, obviously, that's a pretty easy investment to make. And that's a responsibility that I'm super happy to take on. I'm really excited about the whole thing. And so there's a lot of joy in that. And so there's those elements, you and I have talked about that, where it's, if we're going to engage in the doing of the thing, it's going to have its specific standards, but it also has to be fun. That's one of the standards. Right? So,
You know what? While you're talking about coming down, what you get other than the training, because man, the training at some point, and I do believe it. Obviously, I think it's the best thing in the nation for exactly this. But man, there's something else. So we've had 2 instances. We've had 2 conversations while you've been here.
mm-hmm,
If more people talked like this would be a better country.
mm-hmm,
So I have spent so many conversations, so many hours at a shallow level,
mm-hmm,
and now I don't have a lot of patience for that anymore.
mm-hmm,
We've tapped into 2. One was with Neil,
mm-hmm,
as he was rolling out our final cerveza with the Sage, and I love that we sat there. What do you think? 2 hours?
mm-hmm.
For 2 hours, and we just caught him like, one more, man. Like, it's not enough. One more. And there was swollen eyes. Like
Right.
there's tears. And man, I wish that I would have enjoyed that with some spectacular human beings that I've known in my past. We didn't have the courage to go that deep.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have the courage to go to that level, right?
Yeah.
And then there was another one from a visiting family that just came down from Vail,
Mm-hmm.
and that got a little taste of what this community is. There's people house shopping right now,
Yeah.
and I'm not kidding, because of this community.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, what's going on in Douglas County? What's going on in Castle Rock specifically? I want to be here. Can I come to this? Can I come to that? Now they come in from out of the mountains and like, I don't feel this back home. And nothing against their home and their communities, but they're like, this is different.
Mm-hmm.
This is deeper. And people open their soul. And now we're at dinner and I don't care who's looking, and there's tears.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this pouring out of just love.
Yeah.
It's so good. And man, if somebody calls it weak, it's because they don't know what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I when you went through that, redescribing those stories, it's like you want to savor every second little part of that. And it's the moment lasts. It's like I'm thinking about both of those, and then my brain flashes to with Pinkham, and you're saying, man, just one more something. Like in 2 hours. In 2 hours felt like 10 minutes.
Yeah, it did.
And
this person, I just want to. You were on the side of me. We're talking. My wife's there, and we're talking to this other couple, and she has a moment. She gets very emotional. What were you thinking right then? Because I was hoping you wouldn't interrupt, and I did, because sometimes that needs to be there.
it does.
You don't want to interrupt somebody's moment. You want it, whatever's stinging, to sting,
Mm-hmm.
and you want it to sting all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And I was hoping you wouldn't say anything, and then I didn't say anything, and it lasted a good bit,
It did.
enough to be significant.
It did. And it's when you talk about the country needs more of that.
Yeah.
One of the elements of that is you have to allow that awkwardness, and then that awkwardness, if you give it its own space, evolves into, because you're seeing right in front of you, you're seeing all of this, like working through the emotion of it and working through, as humans, we try to think through everything. So you got to give the time to kind of think through, and then just the heart opens up, and all of that growth takes place. But the growth takes place because you proactively let the awkwardness and the, man, you really want to jump in and help them out, but that's not helping them out. Me staying silent helps out.
Yeah, let it be
And
what
we
it
need
is.
more of that.
Yeah. What's the call it by its name or whatever?
Yeah, call it by
It was made Jennifer. I hope I don't get in trouble for this. I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not. I don't know if she's comfortable with it or whatever, but this is a couple that we absolutely love. That is a perfect fit for this community. And I love that they're here, that they found this.
Yeah.
And just a very special couple and a friend of mine from a long time. And it just needed to happen. And that's the good stuff. You don't get many of those in your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And those, I've heard somebody say, and I don't even know that you can find who said it, but it was like life. Oh, dang it. Life's not defined by the breaths you take, but the number of moments that take your breath away. Like when you can't speak and then you just wait and that process goes, but then you must dig deeper to find the words and they come. And, and people walk in the restaurant, I don't care about you. Like, go do your thing. I care about you. But you know what I mean? It's like, if they're like, what's going on there? Amazing what's going on here. Yeah. You should try this at your table. Right? We all have what she's having. It's that it's just good. It is. So that popped into my head, and that just happened twice within the span of a week. Weekish.
Yeah. I think I have just one more question for you.
Send it.
And that is, and it's along those lines, that's an excellent transition. And that is, if you could sit at a campfire with 2 or 3 contemporaries, so you had mentioned a couple of names of people to support. And so when I'm saying contemporaries, I'm thinking guys like Jack Hibbs, I'm thinking guys like whatever. If somebody could jump on a flight tomorrow, and you could sit around a campfire and talk about whatever, who would that be?
Wow.
I know.
Just a couple dudes.
Just a couple.
Or
whatever.
People. Huh. You know what? I think this is just what popped into my head. And I'm American free on the earth, so I say whatever I want. I think
I know that.
Jack Hibbs and Jerry Boykin. With George Strait playing just with the unplugged. Just strumming, just whatever you guys, just whatever.
Yeah.
Just feel free to be you, George.
Yeah. And Jack is he's very bold. Like he'll talk about very contemporary. He'll talk about obviously he'll talk about the need for Jesus.
But I'd love to see him out of that role.
That's what I'm
not
asking.
Out of the role.
That's what I'm asking.
Not proper where you must remain. Kind of there's rules, and he's very good at not following the standard rules. He's just whatever, and it's spirit filled. So I know that it would be, but to have front row access sitting there on a chunk of wood, and brother, you just say whatever you want, and then watch the Holy Spirit shoot down like a light into his head, and then ignite all of us. And then Jerry Boykin has lived it. He's lived it. Yeah. Right. And you know that if it was specifics about what's going on this week, Dan Bongino would be there because he's a protector and he has a big voice. Meaning that I think something's going to happen here. I think he's the only person I know right now that has a voice, a big voice, a global voice that understands this as on a protector level. He's not law enforcement. He's not, he's a protector, and I think emotionally you see it coming out of him that he loves this country. Yeah. That's a good place to start.
Yeah. Good pick. I like it. That's all I got for you.
Cheers, brother. Let's wrap it up because BK's like, we're so over. This is going to be like 3 podcasts, so just let it roll. All right, guys. Thank you guys very much for joining us. This has been great. This is this is good questions, brother. They just we've been talking for a bit this week anyways, and this happens every single time you come down or I come up, and I absolutely love it. So we've been up to Montana as well. We're heading up there September 11th. Going to take some folks up there to the Benghazi Memorial up there and be in your neck of the woods.
That's right.
So look forward to see you on your home turf, brother.
Yes.
So thank you, brother. Appreciate it. And I can't remember. This episode is brought to you by Able Nation. So able-nation.org. When you hit him up, tell Pinkham we said hello. He's on his way to Louisiana to retire down there. He's still running Able Nation from Louisiana. So tell him we said hello. We're still in touch with him weekly. Every week we have meetings. But we appreciate you, Sage. Love you, brother. And this one's in the books, in the can, we call it. Until we see you again, God bless each and every one of you. Take care of one another.